Now on Granada for the national and international news, over to ITN in London.
A political row over England's lowest poll tax. Yeltsin says he's ready to challenge Mr. Gorbachev. 21 former Ceausescu officials face a Romanian court. Mr. Nelson Mandela is given a top ANC job. And the Guinness trial hears of Sir Jack's letter to the Prime Minister. Good evening. The Deputy Prime Minister, Sir Geoffrey Howe, has told Conservatives not to panic over the poll tax. He's told them we have to keep calm. The party is trying to rally its supporters behind the tax tonight before the local government conference tomorrow. Mrs. Thatcher will be there to face many Tory councillors with grievances about the charge. Today, the Conservative-controlled borough of Wandsworth in London set its poll tax at £148, the lowest in England and Wales. Labour said that was only achieved by political bribery. Here's our political correspondent, Kim Catcherside.
Today, Tory Wandsworth earned its reputation as Mrs. Thatcher's favourite council. Only the Shetland Islanders can boast a poll tax lower than the borough's £148. But critics say the charge is artificially low because Wandsworth is spending millions of cash reserves and has been given extra government cash.
What you see in Wandsworth is a deliberate bending of the system to advantage a Tory-run borough for party political propaganda purposes.
At town halls like Labour-controlled East Sussex, anti-poll tax campaigners have demonstrated against the prospect of much higher bills. In this case, around £370 a head, more than twice the Wandsworth level. Labour says Wandsworth has been able to set a figure as low as £148 because of a subsidy from the safety net. Designed to help mainly urban areas in year one of the poll tax, the safety net is a pot of money contributed by those who theoretically stand to gain most from the change, like the Shire counties. This year, every charge payer in Wandsworth gets £116 from the safety net. In East Sussex, with its £370 charge, payers are being forced to contribute £17 each to the safety net. But the Tory chairman rejects this explanation. For him, the poll tax is lower in Wandsworth because it's more efficient.
It just shows what a good Conservative local authority can do. Wandsworth has been run by the Conservatives now for 12 years, and they have concentrated on giving value for money.
These rowdy scenes took place today, as Tory-controlled Cheltenham set its poll tax at £364. Anger at high charges in traditionally low-rated Conservative areas has led to serious breaches between the local and national Tory parties. Tonight, there were appeals for calm.
We have to keep calm as we're making a fundamentally different tax system come into place. We have to take seriously those who are expressing concern about it, but not react in a panic-stricken fashion.
Today, worried Tory council leaders met in London to discuss tactics for tomorrow's local government conference at Westminster.
I'm sure the government will take notice of what a lot of us in local government are saying, which is that there may well be very little wrong with the community charge as such, but there is a need to look at the way in which the grant is distributed.
The Prime Minister, here with Hong Kong's Dame Lydia Dunn, will have to deal with some of those problems tomorrow when she addresses the local government conference. Kim Catcherside, News at 10, Westminster.
There'll be few places in Britain where the debate about the community charge or poll tax is so keenly argued as here in Hazelburn Road in southwest London. When you're standing on this side of the road, you're in the London borough of Wandsworth, which today announced a charge level of just £148 a head. But if you cross the road, you're now in the London borough of Lambeth. And here, the poll tax level is likely to be set next week at more than £600 a head. Apart from that all-important line down the middle of the road, there's little to distinguish one side of Hazelburn Road from the other. But the difference is that Peggy Holloway and her family of 3 will pay a charge of more than £2,000, while over the road, her neighbour, Mary Mannion, and her family will pay less than £500.
It's just incredible from one side of the road to the other side of the road. Plus, they get better amenities over that side. They're definitely a better borough, Wandsworth. And I can't believe that Lambeth can think they get away with it.
obviously we do feel very sorry for them over there, but I shouldn't think it's that. Probably they all want to come and live on this side.
You're not going to fall out?
Oh, no, nothing like that.
Well, of course, I'd like to live on that side of the road. I have a friend over there, and they've always paid probably a third of what we're paying here.
And the two sides will find out exactly how the community charge will divide them when Lambeth sets its final figure next week. Harry Smith, News at 10 on the Wandsworth-Lambeth border.
The Soviet Communist Party's Central Committee will meet next weekend to discuss appointing an executive president. Today, Boris Yeltsin, the country's most prominent radical, said he'll challenge Mr. Gorbachev for the presidency if the conditions are right. He's accused the president of acting like a dictator. Mr. Yeltsin told David Smith of ITN's Channel 4 News that without economic rather than political reforms, the Soviet Union will explode like Eastern Europe.
Но только перед этим надо все решить. Над чем президентствовать? Окончательно не оскорбить и не оттолкнуть республики. Когда президент может отменить любой закон, принятый Верховным Советом Республики. Когда президент может расформировать Верховный Совет. То есть поднять резко власть президента и президентской власти, но одновременно не только не поднять, а надо поднять на этот же было уровень и власть законодательную, которая имела бы право ограничения власти президента, смещение его, отзыв, привлечение его к ответственности за ошибочные решения, не говоря о злоупотреблениях и так далее. Нет, идет на то, чтобы скорее за 2 недели съезд и давать президента.
It sounds as if you're saying Gorbachev's becoming a dictator. Is that the case?
Да, его нетерпимость, его даже, так сказать, ну, то, что он выходил из себя, обрывал, вы крикуны на депутатов, вы демагоги, вы проталкиваете, вы протаскиваете там, и так далее, идеи.
What, in your view, then, is the true Gorbachev?
Он любит власть и не любит, и не может переваривать тех, кто ему противоречит. Он их выгоняет или избегает с ними вести дело. Конкретный пример перед вами.
The Romanian court has heard how former members of the secret police try to hide the deaths of protesters by taking bodies from hospital and burning them. 21 Securitate men face charges relating to genocide in the city of Timișoara. Malcolm Monroe at ITN reports.
These are the men accused of taking part in the massacres of Timișoara. The court's been told they tried to eliminate the evidence by stealing bodies from the hospital, burning them and tipping the ashes down a drain. Official figures given out at the trial reveal 94 people died in Timișoara during the pro-democracy demonstrations. It's alleged that General Gorbachev supervised the transfer of 40 bodies to a crematorium in Bucharest. All the defendants face life sentences if found guilty by the 3-man military court. The head of the tribunal which sentenced the Ceausescus to death has committed suicide. Lieutenant General Gica Popa is said to have shot himself. He was not seen during the televised show trial, but his voice was heard by millions around the world. After the executions of Ceausescu and his wife, General Popa is said to have received death threats from loyalists.
Nelson Mandela has been elected Deputy President of the African National Congress and is now certain to play a leading role in the forthcoming negotiations with President de Klerk. The ANC also announced today that it will move its headquarters from Zambia to South Africa after nearly 30 years in exile.
Nelson Mandela has long been regarded worldwide as the ANC's leader, but in fact he held no formal position in the organisation until today, when that was immediately remedied.
The ANC further elected Comrade Nelson Mandela as Deputy President of the African National Congress.
But Mr. Mandela would not say whether that meant he would lead the negotiations with the South African government.
The fact that I am Deputy President of the ANC does not imply that I will lead the delegation to see the government. That is a matter to be determined by the National Executive of the ANC.
How would you define your future role, Mr. Mandela?
My future role will also be determined by the National Executive. All that I can say is that I am prepared to serve in any role the National Executive instruct me to fulfill.
Meanwhile, the first of South Africa's political exiles to return home packed their belongings. University lecturer Jack Simons and his wife were given a warm send-off for the emotional return to the home they last saw 25 years ago. Kevin Dunn, News at 10, Lusaka.
Here, the Guinness fraud trial has been told how one of the defendants, Sir Jack Lyons, wrote personally to the Prime Minister asking the government not to block the Guinness takeover bid for distillers. Mrs. Thatcher wrote back saying the decision had to be made by the relevant minister. The court was told that about 2 weeks later, the takeover bid was cleared.
The financier Sir Jack Lyons was allegedly paid £3 million by Guinness for his services during the takeover bid for the spirits giant distillers. Guinness was worried that its bid would be referred to the Monopolies Commission, leaving the field clear for a rival offer from Argyll. Trade Minister Geoffrey Patty was supervising the bids. Robert Harman QC, representing Sir Jack Lyons, said that Sir Jack wrote to Mrs. Thatcher in March 1986. The letter was marked private and personal and began, "My dear Prime Minister." Sir Jack said he felt the decision on the Guinness bid should not be left to a junior minister. "I do hope you will take steps that will lead to an even-handed decision." Mrs. Thatcher wrote back, "Dear Sir Jack." The letter said that such decisions were entirely the responsibility of the Secretary of State. She said, "I feel Geoffrey Patty should know the contents of your letter." Within a fortnight, the court was told, Guinness heard that its bid would not be referred. The court was also told that Mrs. Thatcher had lunch with Sir Jack Lyons at the offices of Bain, the management consultant, in January 1987, 5 weeks after the announcement of a government inquiry into Guinness. The trial continues on Monday. Hugh Pym, News at 10, Southwark Crown Court.
Prince Charles has made a personal donation to the fund to help victims of this week's flooding in North Wales. Many people face weeks or even months away from their homes while repairs are carried out.
It was a return home to soaked carpets and mopping up for the residents of Kinmel Bay, next to Tywyn, on the edge of the disaster area.
I don't know, it's just been bad though, really. It's far worse than I anticipated. Yeah.
These houses are wrecked. Almost everything needs replacing.
All the electrical items will have to be replaced. The fitted kitchen, doors, carpets, furnishings, wallpaper.
Reconnecting supplies in Kinmel Bay will take at least the weekend.
Good morning. Good morning. My name's Steve Watts from British Gas. How are you?
More than 700 properties have been made safe so far. In Tywyn itself, the fire brigade has been pumping out the water, which has receded dramatically. It's being returned to the sea faster than had been expected.
I don't think it's going to be long at all. I'm very hopeful that after this weekend there won't be any water left.
Thousands of tons of rocks and cement have been poured into the gaps in the sea wall. The wind has turned away from the North Wales coast. Real progress is at last being made. Tywyn residents are spending another night in the emergency centres, reassured that at least the new wall can contain the sea. Tonight, the new seawall fortifications are 2/3 finished. They'll be working flat out over the weekend, and provided the weather holds, the job should be completed by Sunday evening. Glenn O'Glaser, News at 10, Tywyn.
The government's promised a full inquiry into last night's train crash in Northern Ireland. Kevin Fowler and his wife Marion, who was 6 months pregnant, died instantly when a train ploughed into their car on an unmanned crossing near Ballymena. Their sons, Philip, aged 9, and Timothy, 7, who were in the back of the car, survived. A 17-year-old girl travelling the train was also killed. It's the third fatal accident at an unmanned level crossing on the same line in the last 3 years.
AIDS patients who've suffered side effects from taking AZT, the only established treatment for the virus, are being offered the chance to test a new drug. Doctors hope that the latest treatment, DDI, will prove as effective as AZT, but will be less toxic.
Eddie took AZT for 18 months, but the drug severely damaged his white blood cells, so he's now taking DDI. A conventional drug trial would mean giving some patients DDI and some a placebo, a sugar-coated pill with no drug, to compare the results. Neither doctor nor patient would know which had been given, a so-called double-blind trial that many AIDS patients are against.
I wouldn't go on a double-blind trial. It's quite obvious what happens if you're on nothing. You die. So what's the point? It really is just treating us like guinea pigs with no respect for our lives.
But today, doctors announcing the new trial stressed that it was not a conventional double-blind placebo trial. Patients will choose between option A, in which they'll receive high or low doses of DDI, or option B, when they'll receive either high or low doses or no dose of placebo. The crucial point is with option A, they'll never be forced to take an ineffective placebo. Nevertheless, doctors don't know how effective DDI will be, or what its side effects will be compared with AZT. AZT taken as a pill was introduced 3 years ago. It slows down the attack of the AIDS virus on the body, but 1 in 3 people who take it can't tolerate the serious side effects of anemia and severe nausea. DDI, a soluble powder, is on trial. It acts in the same way as AZT. Its side effects are not yet fully known, but include severe diarrhea.
DDI represents another small step on a very long road towards making HIV a manageable illness. It's not a cure. It still has side effects. There are many other drugs in development which slowly, over the next 5 to 10 years, will help people with AIDS, but we've got a long way to go.
Pesticide levels in a stream near a Ministry of Agriculture research centre have been found to contain 700 times the legal limit for drinking water. What it means for the water supply, a report in part 2. Also, Jazz FM hits the London airwaves this weekend to usher in the new age of British community radio. And they're only 8, but they've won an equality battle. That's in a couple of minutes.
New Cavalier GSI 2000 with the option of 4-wheel drive. It's very good in the wet. Vauxhall. Once driven, forever smitten.
Stop! Before you buy a new kitchen. Right now, if you can beat Freestyle for quality and price, they'll give you a new car every year for the next 20 years. That's right, 20 new cars. The incredible Freestyle Price Challenge. It's on this weekend. If they're that good, why buy from anyone else?
There's now a little more oil in a pack of Duckham's Hypergrade.
Van Gill's Fashion, strictly for men.
The day I give you my data processing department, I've had it.
No, you haven't. Hoskins FM.
Starting in Saturday's Daily Telegraph, you will spy an intriguing new game. A game of codes, clues, rendezvous, and passwords. It's called Codebreaker. Crack it, and every day there's a fabulous prize. You'll need your personal code number, which appears in this Saturday's Daily Telegraph magazine. Whatever you do, keep it secret.
Official tests on pesticide levels in a stream near a Ministry of Agriculture research centre found almost 700 times the legal limit for drinking water. A Department of Environment survey found that the stream close to Rosemond Farm in Herefordshire was heavily polluted with weed killer and fertilisers. This report from Andrew Veach of ITN's Channel 4 News.
Rosemond Farm, a few miles north of Hereford. It's owned and operated by the Ministry of Agriculture as a centre of excellence. That's why it was chosen for the most detailed survey yet of how much pollution from farms flows into rivers and streams and thence into drinking water. The results have not been published. They show far higher levels of pesticides than expected.
This is where they tested for pesticides, and they found that levels of the weed killer simazine were 680 times higher than the officially permitted maximum for drinking water.
The European limit for pesticides in drinking water is 0.1 micrograms per litre. The maximum level of the pesticide simazine in the stream was 68. Levels of nitrate from fertilizers were also above the limit. Instead of 11.3 micrograms per litre, they averaged 15 to 18. The report says, if these values are typical of runoff from agricultural catchments, then this might cause serious problems for the supply of drinking water.
The major problem with finding this particular pesticide in rivers is, of course, that it's going to enter the abstraction points that feed our water supply. So there's obviously a great deal of cause for concern there.
The National Rivers Authority insists the pesticides are so diluted by the Frome and Wye before the water reaches the taps that there's no risk to human health. However, levels above the legal limit have been found in drinking water in other areas, and the Department of Environment has told water companies they must keep to the limits. The concern now is whether pollution from other farms is as high as that at Rosemond. Andrew Veach, News at 10, Herefordshire.
Britain's first 24-hour jazz radio station goes on the air this weekend. Jazz FM in London is part of the first big expansion by commercial radio into a new kind of community station. There'll be more than 20 of them this year, special interest stations called incrementals. ITN is providing the news service for 10 of the news stations.
The launch of a specialised jazz station is part of a revolution in radio designed to offer the listening public much greater choice.
And this is Jazz FM 102.2 for London. Jazz music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
New stations are targeting specific areas with high listener loyalty. They'll need that to survive as the number of independent stations goes from the current 50 to as many as 400 in the next few years. The next 23 are called incrementals. They're called incrementals because they have to be in addition to an existing independent radio service in the same area. 6 are already on air. That's KFM radio in Stockport. Manchester also has Sunset Radio, while Sunrise is broadcasting to the Asian communities of Hounslow and Ealing. North London has London Greek Radio and WNK Radio for Turkish and Caribbean sounds. Bradford City Radio is another new Asian station. 11 more incrementals go on air this spring, with another 7 getting ready for a launch in the summer.
You're tuned to KFM Radio on 104.9 FM.
Stations like KFM in Manchester see their future as pop music with a local flavour.
We've got a big audience in the area from the response we've had, playing a lot of local music, a lot of music up front, very, very little chart music.
Sunrise in West London also avoids chart music, aiming at the area's 750,000 Asians. Sunrise even offers a phone-in marriage service, but with 3 more national radio stations planned, there are bound to be casualties in an increasingly competitive market for limited advertising revenue.
Glasgow has officially taken over as this year's European City of Culture. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh were among those who attended today's ceremonial celebrations.
A spirited rendition of Amazing Grace from the people of Glasgow greeted the arrival of the Queen here to put the royal seal of approval on the city's reign this year as cultural capital of Europe. An equally spirited version of the Marseillaise was heard as the Mayor of Paris officially passed his city's crown to Glasgow.
De capitale culturelle de l'Europe à Glasgow.
The cultural extravaganza here has already been a great success, with a record number of people besieging the box offices. And Glasgow's more traditional entertainment has also benefited from the remarkable renaissance in the city. A trip to the controversial British art show at the McClellan Galleries left the Queen apparently delighted, as she was later to reveal. The display of cardboard boxes, though, has mystified many visitors, including one as distinguished as the Duke of Edinburgh. The Queen returned to the subject over lunch.
I have seen, though, for myself this morning, from my visit to the McClellan Galleries, that Glasgow's view of culture is by no means confined to the traditional. I enjoyed the experience. On a day which marks another notable point in the regeneration of a great city, I wish you well. I'm sure that as European City of Culture, you will leave to the history of Glasgow and to the spirit of Europe a lasting legacy.
David Chater, News at 10 in Glasgow.
Tonight, soccer in the Barclays League Division 3, Cardiff 0, Shrewsbury 1, Division 4, Stockport 1, Colchester 1. 3 young Welsh girls have been given the all-clear to line up alongside boys on the football field. The Welsh Football Association has changed its rules after an appeal by a group of girls who were convinced that soccer isn't just a boys' game.
They're football crazy, they're football mad, and even the boys at practice tonight admit they're good. The problem is, say the Welsh football authorities, they are girls, and the rules say girls can't play soccer with boys. So all season, these young ladies have been forced to watch their team from the sidelines.
Been through well. We like to have a game of football. It's better than anything. And it wasn't fair because all the boys was in the other team on Saturday and we wasn't.
How's the team been doing without you?
They've been winning a few games, but Darren and all those said they want us back in the team. They're good and we want them to play.
They're really good, are they? You're not just saying that.
Yeah, but we're losing a few matches without them all.
And news today that the rules have been changed.
Well, I think it's rooted back in almost the foundation of the association when, of course, men were men and women didn't play games with them.
So we can go and tell these 2 little girls now then that they can play mixed soccer to their heart's content.
Oh, yes, certainly.
The girls hope now to be picked for tomorrow's team.
I want to play football. It's better than having a game of stupid tennis now.
So a victory then for Welsh schoolgirls and one up for the Football Association of Wales. In England, the FA won't allow schoolgirls to play with the boys at any age. Ronan Man, News at 10, West Glamorgan.
And tonight's main story, as Mrs Thatcher prepares to face Conservative councillors at a local government conference tomorrow, the Deputy Prime Minister, Sir Geoffrey Howe, has told party supporters not to panic over the poll tax.
That's it. From Fiona and from me, good night.
On Eyewitness, a special report from the town that died. Could the end of the Cold War mean a cash bonanza for Britain? And the medical mystery of the refugees blinded by witnessing the killing fields of Cambodia. That's Eyewitness, Sunday at 1:10 on ITV.